Number one is understand all sides of the deal. And then in parentheses put, know your specifications. Number one, understand all sides of the deal and know the specifications. Now I want to tell you a little story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard it about FedEx. And FedEx has, I think their plants out in the Midwest. And one day the plant just shut down. I mean, it just completely shut down. And the plant manager, was freaking out. He didn't know what to do. I mean, they're losing, thousands of dollars by the minute. And so he called an electrician to come in. And the electrician came in and said, oh my gosh, you have to help me. I mean, I don't know what to do. Everything is just stopped. So electrician goes into the plant and goes into the center of the plant and, goes in and turns one screw and then poof, everything lights up. And the plant manager said, well, thank you so much. I mean, you saved my job. This is so awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And he says, well, how much do I owe you? And he goes, well, electrician said, well, it'll be $1,000. And the plant manager was kind of, well, I mean, I so appreciate what you did, but I mean, you were only here for 3 minutes. And he said, well, can you write me an invoice? So he said, sure. He pulls out a pad of paper and writes turning screw, $1. Knowing what screw to turn, $999. So what I want to show you today is what screw you need to turn inside of you to make yourself light up. What screws you need to turn inside of your customers to get them excited about buying now versus waiting to buy 12 months from now. Okay? And the difference in that is knowing your shoulds and your musts. So when you're working with a client, a buyer client, you want to, and the same thing with a listing client, what you want to do is you want to find out what would they like to have and what must they have. Because if you don't know specifically what someone really wants, it becomes very difficult to negotiate with them. And you have to understand both parties and what's important to them. And those things can change over time. So it's very important that you follow step number 2, which please write this down, is ask questions. You got to ask quality questions. And the only way you're going to get good at this is by doing it. Now, I want to tell you a little story about a client that came in to see me. And it's like they say, the problem is never the problem. And she came in, she says, well, I'm not happy. And I said, well, how do you know that you're not happy? Okay, and she was kind of taken aback by that question. And so I kept going through the questioning process, and I said, well, how will we know if you become happy? Like, how do I know if we hit happiness in this session, whether or not we reached, happiness or not? And she goes, well, I'll know if I'm happy if my kids make their bed every day, if I sell 90% of my customers, and if I'm in a loving, committed relationship. Now, she was going through a divorce. And I said, do you know anyone that has all those 3 things? And she said, well, no. And so I said, well, why do you want to be miserable the rest of your life, right? So here's the thing. Everyone's perception of reality is different. So it's the same thing with your customers. So let's say you have a customer that says, I want that $1 million house for $100,000. Now we know that's delusional, but in their reality, that's what their reality is. They think they can get it for that. So you have to ask questions to facilitate to find out where somebody's actually at right now. So the 4-step questioning process is this. And this is something that you want to take with you today and use it on a daily basis. I use it anytime I work with a group of people. So the first step of the questioning process is as is. You want to find out what's going on right now, right? So you're not happy. How do we know that you're not happy? What do you like about the house you live in right now? What do you hate about the house you live in right now? What made you pick that house? Okay, you want to find out their current circumstances, okay? The next set of questions is should be questions or imagine questions, okay? Which is, well, if you were happy, what would it look like? Okay, so you got to know where they're at and where they want to be. If you had the house you have now, but it became your dream home, what would be different? Oh, it would have, 3-car garage, 2 acres of land, etc. Now you've created what we call a gap analysis. And you want to create a gap because 86% of all sales today are based on consequences. And if you don't establish some sort of value for your services, it'll turn out where you have someone really excited about buying something and then they actually never end up purchasing. And those are the worst kind of clients to have, right? So you have to lead them through the questioning process. So once you have as is, should be, then you have barriers. What's really holding you back from feeling happy right now? What's really holding you back from purchasing that property today? You have to know, and they're going to tell you time, money, I don't believe you. It's going to be those objections that everybody gets, okay? And you have to overcome those objections and become really good at it. And you have to anticipate what they are. And then, of course, the fourth step of questions is the payout. Well, what will happen once you feel happy on a daily basis? What will happen once you buy that property in that neighborhood? You know, who are your kids going to be friends with? What kind of lifestyle are you going to live? And this four-step questioning process, although very simple, very few salespeople actually use it. They skip ahead. They do the easy, hard approach. They show houses everywhere, and then what they find is that they have to do the hard work and sell on price, and then you're dealing with logic, and very few people buy on logic. They buy on emotion, and I'm going to prove that to you in a couple minutes. But if you've got a customer that is stuck per se, or they're having a difficult time making a decision, us as professionals have to lead them to making a decision. One of the greatest coaches, in my opinion, his name is Dwayne Keller, and I had the privilege of working with him for a few years, and he said one thing to me that I never forgot. In fact, he said it so many times that I made a plaque and gave it to him. He said, don't tell people what you can ask them. Don't tell people what you can ask them. Because here's the thing, I can go into any company and pretty much every company kind of has the same problems. But it's not about what I know, it's about the perception of the company, perception of the people, and once they change their perception, they'll actually change their actions. So that's what's so important about the questioning process. It's not about what I know, it's about what they need to start realizing in order to change their actual actions, okay? So using that four-step questioning process will literally increase your sales. You just have to practice it consistently. Because the only way to influence someone is to find out what already influences them. You don't want to have guesswork. You want to know for certain what's going on with your customers. So number one, understand all sides of the deal. Know the specifications. Ask those questions. What's a should, what's a must?